have this vivid memory of sitting in the bathtub one time and just crying.
I think I punched my dad once.
You're not in charge of me right now. Like, you just won't leave me alone.
I had an epidural in my back, so I couldn't move very well.
She just wanted me to keep pushing and keep going.
Everybody had one. Like, if you didn't have one, you were looked down upon.
This is a show where teenagers share their experiences growing up in today's world. I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and this is A Teen's Perspective.
What is a limiting belief?
Believing that you can only do one thing when you can do much more.
Absolutely. So ultimately, a limiting belief is any belief that limits you. And the reason why this is so cool for you guys to learn is because the wonderful thing about a belief is that it can't be proven. That's why it's a belief. So, you think of like gravity. We can prove that. Like right now, I'm 6'5". That's my height. That's a fact. It can be proven. It's not a belief. The key is we need to uncover the belief that you have so we can see which one is limiting us. And so last time I talked about my belief. So many of you know that I'm an orthodontist. And my desire to become an orthodontist is because I wanted to impact the lives of teenagers. And I figured that if I can give you guys a perfectly straight smile, then you're going to have amazing confidence. And I know that a confidence is the key to unlocking your potential. So I started putting braces on and I started straightening teeth. And I believe I shared the exact example of what happened to me, of why it turned the light bulb on for me, right? So I am an orthodontist. So I went to school 11 years after high school. So for all you guys who wants to be an orthodontist, at least at this point, it's like 11 years. So be prepared for that. But I went 11 years and I became an orthodontist. And the belief I had in my mind is that, listen, I've spent 11 years studying to be an orthodontist. So this is my job forever. This is the career. In fact, many of you guys have heard that from your own parents, your own friends, teachers, like, hey, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? So it's like all this pressure comes on you. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? I don't know, because I don't even know my future self. So I became an orthodontist and then I'm straightening teeth. And then one day I put braces on a 14-year-old and it was Friday. And then I get an email later on that night and it's like, hey, we want the braces off. So as you can imagine, I'm like, what did I do wrong? I started remembering the entire process. Okay, I did this right. She was happy. There was no pain. What did I do wrong? So the whole weekend, I am not happy at all. And I wasn't mad, but I was more sad because it's man, I must be failing some way. Come to find out on Monday, she calls me, the mom, and said that her daughter has an eating disorder and they need to take the braces off. So it made me feel better a little bit because it wasn't me, but then it made me feel bad because her daughter has to go through this. So we took the braces off and they went to a therapist. And after some time, the mom came back and she's like, hey, it's not working. Do you have any ideas? Do you know any therapists? So I referred her to somebody that I heard about. And then a few months later, she came back and was like, listen, this is not working. And she knew that I mentor teenagers. I taught middle school in my church. I mentor teenagers. I've been mentoring for a long time. So she's like, can you just talk to her? And so I was like, sure. So I'm talking to her. It just the light bulb just came on for me. Hey, this is 100% in the mind that she's experiencing. This eating disorder is literally in the mind. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she sees something that no one else sees. Because she was actually, according to the body mass index, she was actually a little below weight. But when she looked in the mirror, she saw this obese person, essentially. And I know that's in the mind. So it reminded me of my first experience with the life coach. So immediately I started typing. I'm like, okay, we need to find you a life coach. Therapy's not the answer. And I couldn't find any. So at that moment, I didn't know what to do, honestly. So I kept talking to her. And the reason why it took me so long to realize that I could be the one to do this is because of a limiting belief. I had the belief in my mind that I'm an orthodontist. I'm straightening teeth. Who am I to talk to somebody about their thoughts, right? It just doesn't go. It doesn't match. And I actually wrestled with that limiting belief for some time because I kept talking to my wife about it. And I'm like, man, I really feel like I should be doing this. And then my wife was like, do it then. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what people are going to say. You know, my colleagues are going to be like, hey, what are you doing? You're an orthodontist. So I kind of wrestled with that for a time until I realized that it was a limiting belief. As soon as I realized it was a limiting belief, I'm like, oh no, I'm doing this. And I went through the certification process and I became a life coach and I've been coaching ever since. The reason why I share this story with you is because you all have limiting beliefs. Every last one of you. Some of them, as I was sharing my story, it kind of popped in your head. It's like, oh yeah, I have one, right? Some of you have them and you know it right away. Others of you is like in your subconscious. You're not even aware of it. It's impacting how you show up day to day, but you're not aware of it. So I'll give you an example of one. I was coaching a teenager. Some of you have already heard the story. It was early on in my career of life coaching, and his mom came to me because he struggled in math. So he would make straight A's in science, history, and all that. But in math, he'll make a C. That doesn't make sense, right? So she went to a tutor, didn't work. So she came to me. And when she first came to me, she was like, hey, I need you to help him with math. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have a limiting belief, but I do know that I'm not a tutor and I'm not going to help him with math doing problems. That's not what I do. So I explained that I'm a coach and all that, and that 80% of success is in the mind, so I can help him. So I started coaching him, and I found it literally in our second session what was holding him back. And I want some of you guys, if you believe this or used to believe it, you put it in the chat. But he truly believed that you had to be born with a math gene. Seriously, that's what he believed. He believed either you're born with math, getting it is coming to you easily, or you're not. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but we had to change that limiting belief. We're like, no, it has nothing to do with what you're born with. Does that make sense for you guys? Yes, says Kelly. Who else? Nishka, yes, thank you. Nishka's a newbie and she's getting in here. All right, I'm looking for some of the newbies. Come on. Not is new. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Yes, it's making sense. All right, so usually in these conversations we're having, I'm usually teaching. Today is not going to be that. Today, I need some involvement. I need some interaction, all right? So I'm asking you right now for you to identify one limiting belief. One limiting belief. And before you do that, I want everyone to do this. And this will help you while you're homeschooling. So I need everyone to change your position. So if you're sitting, stand. If you're standing, sit. If you're lying down, sit up. If you're sitting, lying down, change your position. We all going to do it. I'm going to do it too. All right? Let's change our position, everyone. All right. So why do you think we did that? It's just quick, something really quick. You just change your position. Why do you do that? It's recommended that you change your position about every 20 minutes. And this is important for you guys at home because it's going to be homeschooling, right? And I want you guys to have success. And the reason we do that is to refocus. Our mind always wants to be either in the past or the future. You guys have to remember that, always. In fact, studies show that 5% of the time we are present. All the other time, we're either in the past thinking about something yesterday or an hour ago or a minute ago or something in the future, right? So whenever you change your position, it allows your brain to refocus back to what we're talking about. So now that everybody changed, we're refocused. Let's get right back into it. Now, I at least want 3 people to share with me a limiting belief that they have and that they are willing to change. Let's go. Who's going to do it? It's important. Remember, we need to shed these limiting beliefs because we know that it's holding us back. And it may not be holding you back from making A's, but maybe it's holding you back from sports, or maybe it's holding you back from growing a deeper relationship with your best friend, or even meeting new friends, right? So there's a limiting belief. I mean, who wants to share their limiting belief? I don't do well in online school. Yes, Kaylee, thank you. You came through in the clutch. Maya, I'm lazy. I like it. Come on, one more person, because we're going to go over each one of these. One more person, a limiting belief. I can't paint well. All right. Oh, Andrea, this is a good one. I'm not good at making friends. All right, we have the 3. All right, and then we'll throw a bonus with the painting. So these are what we call limiting beliefs. How do we know it's a limiting belief? Because it's not a fact. In other words, for you to use words that compare yourselves to others, that means it's not a fact. So perfect example, I'm not good at making friends. That's a limiting belief. But guess what this belief does? If you truly believe you're not good at making friends, what do you think is going to happen when there's a new person and you have the opportunity to meet a new person? What do you think is going to happen if you have that belief? I'm not good at making friends. You're not going to say anything. You're not going to say anything. And in fact, if someone approaches you, you're going to get super nervous and you're going to say something weird and then you're going to just walk away. You'll withdraw. Yes, Kelly, you're absolutely right. That's what happens. It's a limiting belief. Because you guys remember our triangle. There's a triangle that I showed. And it's basically that every single thought, every belief in your mind creates an emotion. And we are emotional creatures. Everything we do is emotional. Trust me. Everything you do is emotional. So when you tell somebody, hey, you're so emotional, you're like, well, duh, you are too. We're all emotional. That's what makes us do things. When you play video games, you show emotions. And it's funny, I always tell parents, they say, hey, my kid, is not motivated. I'm like, yeah, he is. I can promise you that, or she is. They're motivated to play video games. They're motivated. They may not be motivated to do what you want them to do, but they're motivated because we're all emotional. We get excited. We want to play video games. We want to do things. So your emotions will cause an action or inaction, but it's still an action. So my mindset is I'm not good at making friends. My mom tells me, hey, guess what? I just signed you up for this cool program. What is going to be your immediate response? You're going to feel like, oh no, you may get anxious, start sweating. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm busy. I have to do this. I don't even like that, whatever that is, right? Because in your mind, you have this belief that you are not good at making friends. So if you guys can remember from last time, can you remember the question that you ask yourself to overcome a limiting belief? Remember, it's a belief. It's not a fact. So you can ask yourself the question, why does this have to be true? What evidence do you have that this is true? How many people have you went out and tried to make friends? I guarantee you, Andrea, be honest with me. How many people have you actually tried to make friends with? How many? Give me a number. All I need is a number because this is going to help us. This is going to help us realize it's a limiting belief, but it's not a true belief. It's not a fact. 12. So let's say the number's 12. Most likely it's not a lot because what happens is you get the belief and you stop trying to make friends. But even if it's 12 people, you try to make friends. Guess what? Every single day you grow. Every single day you develop. Every single day you have a new experience. So therefore, just because in the past you've tried 12 times and it didn't work, who's to say that the next 20 times will not work? Because think about it, we only have a certain capacity for friends. The goal is not to have 100 friends. How many friends do you want? Some of you want 5 friends. Okay, well, try 20 times. I'm sure you'll get 5 friends. My point I'm trying to say is it has nothing to do with the fact that you're not good at making friends. Maybe it's that you didn't have anything in common with the friends that you tried to meet. Or maybe it was bad timing. That's always a thing, bad timing. So we need to remove the limiting belief by challenging the belief. We ask ourselves, is it a fact? How do we know that's the fact? And it's not a fact. So choose to believe the opposite. I'm amazing at making friends. Guess what? If you believe that, what will happen? If you believe that you're amazing at making friends, you will be more confident. And if you're more confident, you would see the cool person that you see at the lunch table and go sit next to him and start talking to him. Or however you make friends. So that is how you overcome that. What's another one? I won't do well in online school. And thank you so much, Kaylee, for sharing this because I coach a ton of teens. And that's actually one that comes up. And I have the perfect response for that, to challenge that limiting belief. Are you guys ready for it? Real quick, do a quick change so we can refocus. So I'm going to just spin around in my chair. I'm spinning around. All right, so I'm refocused. And I'm going to answer Kaylee's question. So she has a limited belief saying she won't do well in online school. And remember, some of you may believe this, but it's not really conscious to you yet. So my question to you would be like, is it a fact? The answer is going to be no. First of all, because you probably haven't tried it before, right? But secondly, this is the most empowering question you guys can ask yourself right now as it relates to online school. Here we go. You ready for it? So if any of you have any limiting belief around online school, you don't know how you're going to do, you're nervous about it, or you're thinking that you're not good at online school. I hear it too much. This is the question you need to ask yourself. Before I tell you, I'm going to tell you why you should ask yourself this question. Your mind is obligated to give you an answer when you ask it a question. Obligated. So, case in point is if you ask yourself, why do I look ugly today? I guarantee your mind's going to give you an answer. Well, look at your hair. Well, look at what you're wearing. Look at that pimple on your face. Your mind is going to zero in on an answer. If you ask yourself, why am I terrible at soccer? Your mind is going to give you an answer. Oh, remember you couldn't even kick the ball, or you were doing this, you got pushed down, or you're too slow, right? So your mind is always obligated to give you an answer. And this is the question you ask yourself if you're worried about online school. What advantage do I have now that I've never had before now that I'm doing online school? What advantage do I have personally? You ask yourself that question, your brain will give you an answer. And that is the key. Because once you realize, like, wait a minute, my limiting belief is telling me that I am not great at online school, even though I haven't tried it before. This new question would be like, wait a minute, there's actually an advantage to doing online school that I've never had before. I like what Prim said. He says, I have more time for myself to do more activities. Right. That may translate to straight A's for Prim, because we know that, once again, the mind is important. And if you find that you're not getting time to do the fun things, you may be stressed and you may not do well in school. But if you're home, you have time to do your fun things, then you're more focused. All right. Nishka says it's more convenient, right? You can just kind of stay in bed longer. We all know, your parents may not know this, but I'm telling you guys, the teenage brain does not wake up until later. And I'm not giving you guys this information as an excuse, okay? So don't go in and say, oh, the reason why. No, it's not an excuse, but I'm just telling you that they've already done studies on this. Your brain as a teenager, it actually wakes up later than parents and kids, right? So sleeping in a little longer may help you with success. Kelly says, drink coffee. If that's what you want to do. I'm not an advocate of coffee at all. I've never tasted it. I don't drink coffee at all. I drink water. Water is great for the brain. But, to each his own. Does that make sense for you guys? I want to hear from Kaylee, since she posed the amazing question. Does that make sense how if you start to focus on your advantage of online school, you're going to be actually excited, very excited. Perfect. All right, awesome. So the next thing we can do to help with limiting beliefs is to introduce new beliefs. Oh man, this is good here, because this will literally change your world. We're going to introduce new beliefs. So I'm going to introduce one new belief for you, and I want to hear some feedback on this belief. Remember that this new belief is a belief. It means you choose to accept it or you don't have to accept it. This is not a fact. We're not going to argue over facts. I remember when I first became a Christian, that was years ago. I grew up as a Christian, but then I went on this renewal of developing my relationship with Jesus. And so I went on this spree where I was just like trying to convert everyone. And I found myself like getting in arguing matches, like arguing. Like this is supposed to be like something cool and nice, but I'm like arguing, like so upset, until I realized I'm like, wait a minute. I got to see it from the other person's perspective. For other people, it's not a fact. It's a belief. I choose to believe it. My family believes it. Many people believe it, but it's not a fact because there's many people who don't believe it. So I had to accept that. And then after I accepted that, it made me have more meaningful conversations about Christianity. It was no more arguing matches. I didn't like argue with them because I started to understand, like, wait a minute, this is a belief and they don't believe that. And that's okay. So let us just have conversations so we can understand each other. Once you understand about beliefs, that you can choose to believe it because they either empower you or they limit you, then you want to accept some beliefs that I'm going to share with you, but you don't have to accept all of them, okay? So my goal is to share 3 beliefs with you, and you choose to accept it or not, but keep an open mind. How about that? So everybody shift positions, and I'm going to grab my book. So shift positions. So the first belief I want to share with you guys, and we're going to see if this kind of help unlock any type of block you guys have. And I want your feedback on this. Remember, it's a belief. You choose it or not. It's either going to empower you or it limits you. If it limits you, you throw it away. If it empowers you, you accept it. It's a belief. It's not a fact. Here's the first belief. You cannot make a mistake. What do you think about that? I'm curious to hear some feedback on that. Do you believe or will you accept the fact that you cannot make a mistake? How would that change your life if you believed you couldn't make a mistake? Maybe some of you wouldn't have regret anymore, right? You wouldn't be held back by regret. Maybe some of you would not still be worried about something in the past that you did. Maybe you'd be more free to try new things because you're not worried about making a mistake. So give me some feedback on that, guys. What do you think about that? What do you think about that belief? Nish could say she's accepted. That's awesome. You know why? Because if she accepts it, that means it's empowering to her. And now she's going to have some freedom. Dexter is actually saying it's not empowering for him because he couldn't learn from the past. That's a good perspective, Dexter. Thanks for sharing that. So Dexter, he's not accepting that belief because he will not learn from the past. So remember, there's different types of people. Some people get stuck in the past. Prim actually brought up another situation. He said it's possible to forget the situation, which may take you back to square one. That's a great perspective. Andrea says, I think mistakes help us learn. So that's another one. That's great. Thank you guys for sharing that perspective. Ultimately, a belief is something you choose to accept, and it empowers you or it holds you back. And if you're the type of person who learns from the past and they're not stuck by the past, I believe that mistakes are okay. It sounds like for you guys. But there are people who truly suffer from regret, who truly suffer from mistakes of the past. And this is freeing to them. So do you guys see how that works? All right, let's go to the second belief. This is a good one. I'm curious to see if you guys know this one. Oh, man. And this one is one that I actually believe in myself. So the answers to all questions lie within. What do you think about that? That's a powerful one. What do you think about that? Is that a belief that you want to accept, or do you want to deny that belief? Alexa says yes. Nishka says yes. Prim says deny. All right, give it to us. Tell us why do you feel like that belief is limiting? Dexter says, I don't understand. Okay, so what this belief is saying that is the answers to all questions lie within. So that basically means you have the answers to all of your questions. It's inside of you. In other words, you have the capacity to get the answer. And I'm going to tell you why I choose to accept it. And I'm not choosing to accept it when it comes to bigger issues. Like when I say bigger issues like murder or starvation, right? I don't have the answer to it. Although deep down, I know that I can contribute to help with that. Like, starvation. Why do people kill other people? There's a lot of questions that I truly believe God knows that answer. But I think this quote is more so the answers as it relates to you and your issues, your everyday problems. So for instance, for orthodontics, when COVID hit in Austin, I had to close my office down. All of us had to close down for 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. And I was like scratching my head trying to figure out like, what do I do? Literally. I was like kind of feeling like, man, this is not fair. Why do I have to close my office? All this stuff, because we're trained to not transmit viruses, right? So I feel like, why do I have to close down? And I couldn't figure out like how to keep my team motivated and to take care of my patients. So I took some time to myself and I started to meditate. And all meditation is just kind of being quiet and just being quiet. Take some time to just be still. And then it came to me that maybe I should offer FaceTime appointments. And it kind of worked out really well. And then I was able to do meetings with my staff. We came up with some ideas. So yeah, the point I'm trying to say is that's why I choose to believe it. I truly believe that the answers to my day-to-day life, I have the answers. Sometimes I have to be still. Sometimes I need to like remove all of my limiting beliefs and try to accept the answer. So once again, it's a belief. You choose to accept it or not. All right, here we go. Here's another one. Oh man, I like this one a lot. And this one I believe in wholeheartedly. I believe in this one. Here we go. Do you accept or deny? Each person we meet is our teacher and a student. What do you think about that? Nishka says accept it. Who else? What do you think? You accept and deny. It says every single person that you meet is a teacher. So what that means is you can learn something from them. And that same person is a student, which means you could teach them something. Alexa says deny. Dexter says accept. Kyle says deny. Now, anyone who denied that, put in a chat or you can unmute yourself. Tell me, why did you deny it? I'm just curious. I just want to see your perspective because I accept it personally. And I'll give you guys an example why I accept it. I actually accepted this when I had kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And trust me, there's a lot to learn from a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Oh man, I learned patience. I learned how that, I think one of my biggest lessons I learned with my 3-year-old is that just because something is not important to me doesn't mean it's not important to someone else. I learned that lesson and it literally changed how I see and interact with people. And this is from a 3-year-old. So that's why I believe this, because he's my teacher. Now, obviously, as a parent, I'm teaching him a bunch, so he's my student as well, but he also is my teacher. And the way I learned that is that he had, all you guys probably, remember toddlers have meltdowns. And what happened was he has his little toy and then the toy wouldn't like twist a certain way. So he literally just had a meltdown. I mean, I'm talking about like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Like just falling out, rolling on the ground. And in my head, I'm like, what are you talking about? Dude, it's a toy. We throw it away. We'll buy you another. It's not that big of a deal, right? But to him, it was a huge deal. And I learned it. In that moment, I'm like, you know what? It is a big deal to him. And that's okay. It's not a big deal to me, but I respect that as a big deal to him. So I learned something for that. So have these beliefs been helpful to you guys? Thumbs up, thumbs up. And give me a double thumbs up if you want to do one more. Double thumbs up if you want to do one more. Yes, there's helpful. Nishka says yes. Kelly says yes. Double thumbs up says Daniel. 2 thumbs up. Okay, we'll do one more. Let's do another one. Here we go. Here we go. Ooh, I actually want to do 2 more if you guys let me. All right, so the next one is pain is inevitable. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. What do you guys think about that? Do you accept it or do you deny it? Accept or deny? Prim says deny. Olivia said accept. Who else? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Kyle says accept. Maya says accept. I don't have an opinion. That's okay. It's okay not to have an opinion. Remember, the goal of these beliefs is to adopt them if they empower you. But if they don't empower you and you feel like they limit you, like the whole mistakes one, just don't accept it. It's all about what empowers you. Everyone suffers sometimes. We're only human. Okay, Nishka, that's a good one. So the way this belief can empower you is to understand that suffering is a choice. And yes, although we all experience suffering, sometimes we're choosing it. So I'm a case in point. I'm trying to give you guys a good example of what I experienced. So whenever I moved to Austin, I just graduated from orthodontic residency and I moved to Austin. And the only reason why I moved to Austin was because I was going to buy a practice from this older orthodontist. So I moved here. I found a place right next to the practice. I like literally drove to the practice every day for like a week and just saw my name on the practice. I literally were doing that. And guess what happened to me? Guess what happened? He sold it to somebody else. So that experience was very painful to me. So in that moment, I experienced defeat, let down. I experienced sadness. But guess what happened over the next 3 days? That was my only experience of a little depression. I've never experienced clinical depression, and that's a real thing. But I experienced this, like, I call it little D depression, where I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to do anything. I literally just sat in my room and I looked outside the window. That was suffering. For me, that was a choice. If I could go back in time and go through that again, I would have opened my mind to the million possibilities that were out there. Because now looking back, it actually worked in my favor because I opened my own practice and I get to run my practice the way I want to in the area that I want to be in. So that's the reason why that quote, I choose to accept it, is because I understand that just because something happens to me painful, and it's not always physical pain, there's mental pain, emotional pain, doesn't mean I need to suffer for weeks on end replaying that event in my head. I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it. So that's what that quote means. All right. So if you guys give me 3 thumbs up, I'm giving you one more. 3 thumbs up. Uh-oh, I'm seeing 3 thumbs up. We're giving another one. All right, I'm giving you one more. Here we go. Here we go. I think this is a good one for you guys. We are each here for a special purpose. Do you accept or do you deny it? I accept it. I want to know what you guys are feeling. Nishka say deny. Dexter say deny. Olivia said deny. Daniel said accept. Prim said accept. All right. Anyone who denied, share your perspective. Why do you deny it? Accept, but not everyone figures it out. Why does this belief limit you? Share with us. No one is special or superior. We have things that make us unique, but things do not revolve around us. All right. Perfect example is Nishka. So to Nishka, that belief is very limiting for her because she thinks that we're all unique. Now, remember, a belief is also about perspective. So I actually agree with Nishka. If I viewed this quote the way Nishka viewed it, I would say deny too. But I actually view it a different way. I actually believe that just like a hammer has a purpose, somebody created a hammer. The hammer is a very efficient way of putting a nail into the wall. Sure, you could use your fist, you could use your shoe, but a hammer is going to get it there. Bam. I truly believe that I'm here for a purpose. I believe that my creator made me for a specific purpose. I believe he equipped me with certain gifts and certain experiences that's going to help me reach other people. That's my own belief because it empowers me. But if it didn't empower me, I would choose not to believe it. Because you know what? It's not a fact. We don't know. We would never know. We don't know now. Put it that way. It's all a guess. So you choose what empowers you. You deny what limits you. All right. Daniel says, I like what Samaya says. Not everyone figures it out, but everyone has a purpose. All right. I like it. Good job. Now, I'm not trying to be greedy, but I can give you one more or we can call it quits. So what do you think? I'm not trying to be greedy. I can end it right now, but I'm just curious because I like the feedback that you guys are participating. Okay, Kyle says one more. Daniel says one more. Okay, it's going down. I'm giving you one more. Here we go. All experiences are opportunities for growth. What do you think? Accept or deny? Prim says he accepts it. Kelly accepts it. Maya accepts. Olivia accepts. Do we have a 100% acceptance rate? Yes, I believe we do. We have a 100% acceptance rate. Now, the fact that we have a 100% acceptance rate on this quote, it's one thing to believe it. It's another thing to put it into practice. So how will you use this new belief starting today before we get off this call or even when we get off this call? How are you going to use it? How are you going to use this belief? Come on. How are you going to use it? If something bad happens, I will learn from it and to avoid it. Yes, that is it. So listen, this even relates to whenever we have little mini failures. Remember, we started off talking about failures. We're talking about how to succeed this year in school with online schooling. We want everyone to make straight A's if that's what you want to make. I believe you could do it. But sometimes we will have little mini failures, whether it's I made a C on a quiz, right? You can either use that experience to beat yourself up, or you can use that experience to grow. Perfect example. I have a wife. I have a very loving wife. We've been together almost 10 years. We've dated for over 10 years. We've been married for 4. We dated a long time. Point I'm trying to say is I've grown so much from learning from our arguments. So now we barely argue, to be honest, because I've learned so much because I chose, and she did too, we chose to learn from the experience. So say we got in a big fight. Oh, I don't know, you this, you that. Oh, I'm mad at you. Don't talk to me, right? And then instead of being mad at each other and just like, you know what, this doesn't work. We're like, okay, how can we grow from that? What did I learn from that experience? Well, I know that I should listen first. And we actually did this whole little thing that we do in our relationship where we summarize what the person said before we speak our own thoughts. Because we found ourselves that we were talking over each other and we didn't listen. Like if she came to me to tell me about something like that I'm terrible at, which is folding my clothes, I'm horrible at it. I would be like, well, I'm busy and I have this. Instead, I'm like, okay, so what I'm hearing is you want me to fold the clothes because when I don't fold the clothes, it makes you feel like I am ungrateful for what you have done as far as folding clothes, right? Whatever. I'm just a small example. But the point is, I got a chance to summarize what she told me. And guess what? When I was summarizing it, I learned from that. I'm like, okay, I get what she's saying. So now I don't have this fancy comeback or this sly remark back at it. I'm like, okay, I got it. This quote has helped me a ton. And I hope that you guys will use it for yourself. But, I think that will do it for today. I will bring a few more quotes next time because it'll be part 3 on this whole going back to school. Because next time we're going to talk about the next ladder up of our 4 mental blocks. The first one was limiting beliefs. The next one is interpretations. So we're going to talk about interpretations in the next one. So see you guys later. Thank you so much. I enjoyed you guys participating with me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. I hope you enjoy listening to the group coaching session. And I also hope that you are able to learn something that would help strengthen the relationship between you and your teenager. Until next time, this is a teen's perspective, helping parents see the future.